your political science class. Today we are going to begin from the framing of the constitution. See students, earlier in the year 1928, Jawaharlal Nehru, he initiated a draft of the constitution in the Nehru report. Okay. Then in the year 1931, at the Karachi Congress session, some values of this Constituent Assembly or certain values of the constitutions were also drafted, which was later on included in our Indian constitution. But the Constituent Assembly, it framed the constitution, or its election was done according to the Cabinet Mission Plan. Okay, its election was done according to the Cabinet Mission Plan that was framed by the British in the year 1946. Okay, now finally after election, okay, the Constituent Assembly started working from 6 December 1946. It started working from 6 December 1946. And remember students that the Constituent Assembly was indirectly elected by the process of restricted franchise, where only 20 to 24% of the adult population in India were only allowed to vote. Okay, where only 20 to 24%. That also the highly educated people and from the high class society only they were allowed to vote. Okay, so you cannot call it a real representative body. Okay, and moreover, this Constituent Assembly or in the provinces or in the princely states, the proportion of the members in the Constituent Assembly from this princely states, it depended upon the population. Okay, and the ratio of the member and the ratio of the population was 1:10 lakh. The ratio of representatives from each princely state was 1:10 lakh. Okay, and this representatives from each princely state or from each provinces, it consisted of the Hindus, it consisted of the Muslim as well as of the Sikh. Now the number of Sikh representative, the number of Hindu representative and the Muslim representative, it depend upon their number or it depend upon their population, you can say. Okay, not only that, in the princely states, the mode of selection was to be determined, or the mode of election was to be determined through consultation. Okay, now what about the nature of the Constituent Assembly? The Constituent Assembly was not a real representative body. Okay, it was formed by a minority sections of the society, or you can say that it was formed only by the propertied section and only by the highly qualified adult citizens of our country. So you cannot call it a real representative body. And moreover, this Constituent Assembly, it consisted of 80% of Hindus. Okay, 80% of the members in Constituent Assembly were Hindus, that also high class Hindus, and only 13% were Muslim, only 13% was Muslim. And this Constituent Assembly was framed according to the European structure, okay, following the European structure. Now, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he was appointed as the chairman of the drafting committee in the Constituent Assembly, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad, he was the president of the Constituent Assembly. Is that clear? Now, what about the ideology of the Constitution? Or what about the ideology of the Constituent Assembly? The Constituent Assembly was, it consisted of 2/3, okay, or you can say that 2/3 members of the Constituent Assembly belonged from the Congress. Okay, during that time actually students, Congress was dominating. It was a single dominating political party in our country. Okay, so the Constituent Assembly, it consisted of 2/3 number of population who were from the Congress party, and a few of the prominent leaders among them were Dr. Rajendra Prasad and Jawaharlal Nehru. Is that clear? As I said you that the Congress only dominated the Constituent Assembly, or you can say the 2/3 number of member in the Constituent Assembly were from the Congress, it does not mean that the Constituent Assembly did not care about the other common citizens. It definitely cared about the other common masses also. Now, due to differences in the ideas of different members in the Constituent Assembly, okay, the assembly was divided into 3 schools, okay. First school, second school and the third school. Okay, now the first school, it was inspired by the Gandhian ideas, you can say. It was inspired by the Gandhian ideas. They basically believed in decentralization of the village panchayat and development of the cottage or small scale industries or cottage industries. Okay, the second school, they were basically inspired by the socialist ideas or by the communist ideas. Okay, now what about the third school? The third school was inspired by the ideas of the rightists, and this third school was led by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Now I am going to tell you about the Indian Constitution. Remember students, that the Indian Constitution is the lengthiest written constitution in the world. Okay, earlier the Constitution had 395 articles. Okay, earlier this one, it had 395 articles that were divided into 8 schedules. 8 schedules. Okay, now later on the Constitution went through certain changes or amendments, and at present the number of articles, you can say, it is 448. This is the present, it is 448 articles. Okay, and it is divided into, this 448 article has been divided into 25 parts. Okay, now there are 12 schedules and 5 appendixes. This is the structure of the present Constitution. Okay, but remember that the Constitution of India has gone through the process of amendment for nearly more than 98 times. Okay, it has gone through the process of amendment. Amendment means changes. Now, what about the supremacy of the Indian Constitution? Indian Constitution is the supreme authority, okay, that's why the charge of interpreting the Constitution has been given to the Supreme Court of India. Okay, the Indian Constitution is the supreme authority, that's why the task of interpreting the Constitution has been given to the Indian Supreme Court. Okay, now our Indian Constitution is partly rigid and partly flexible. What does rigid and what does flexible means? Rigidity means the Constitution which cannot be changed so easily. That is called a rigid Constitution. And what is a flexible Constitution? The Constitution that can be changed very easily is called a flexible Constitution. But in case of India, we neither have a rigid Constitution nor do we have a flexible Constitution. Like, there are certain laws in the Constitutions that can be changed in the parliament, or that can be amended in the parliament through regular lawmaking process or through ordinary lawmaking process. But maximum laws in the Constitution that are there, that has to be passed through a majority vote in the parliament. Then only changes can be done. Okay, and finally, as I told you earlier, that Supreme Court is the final interpreter of the Constitution. Okay, so our Indian Constitution is partly rigid and it is partly flexible, and it is the sole, or it is the supreme authority of our country, because whatever powers and functions the different organs of the government they enjoys, whatever fundamental rights we being a citizen enjoy, everything is done according to the Indian Constitution, after following the Indian Constitution. Okay, now I am going to tell you about the preamble of the Indian Constitution. So what is a preamble? See students, when you open the cover page of your textbook, you find a page with a heading called preface. Okay, what does that preface means? It means an introduction of your book or about the book. The preface tells us about the book. Preamble is a similar thing. Okay, it tells you about the constitution, or you can also say that preamble is an introduction to your constitution. Okay, now there are several essential attributes of this preamble. Okay, so what are the essential attributes of our preamble? The first attribute is we the people of India. This is the first attribute. Okay, we the people of India. In fact, our constitution, or in fact our preamble begins with this phrase that we the people of India, then it continues. Okay, now what does this mean? We the people of India, it means that our constitution has been made for us. Okay, it works for us. Actually, see, in a democratic country like India, we cannot directly run the government. Okay, but we elect our representatives, and on our behalf those representatives runs the government, and whatever changes are to be done in the constitution, or whatever amendments are to be done in the constitution, those are basically done by this representatives. Okay, so that's why we the people of India, it shows that somewhere we are participating in making of the constitution, or we are participating in running the government. Okay, next comes socialist. Okay, socialist. What does socialist means? Socialist means where the government works for public benefit. It thinks about the public and it provides certain facilities to the public, and it also works for the benefit of the public. Okay, and our government always works for the public benefit. In fact, laws in the constitution are also made keeping in mind the public benefit, and if the laws are made that go somewhere against the public benefit, then that particular law becomes a dissent. Okay, that particular law becomes a dissent, and the Supreme Court may ask the Parliament to change that particular law. Next comes sovereign. Okay, what does sovereignty means? Sovereignty means when the country is free from any external rule. Actually, India has gone through a devastating past. Okay, India has gone through a wrecked past because it was ruled by the British for nearly 200 years. Okay, so keeping that negative aspects in mind, the makers of the constitution had thought of making India a sovereign nation, so that India is free from any other external rule. Okay, next comes your democracy. What does democracy states? Democracy states that the people of India enjoys political rights, or you can say that we participate in the election, we enjoy the political right, and somewhere we indirectly participate in making of the government. Okay, or you can also say that the government belongs to us, it works for us, and it is of us. Okay, it is our government. Okay, next comes your secular. What does secularism means? Secularism means a country where every religion is considered equal. Okay, see students, India is a country where we do not have any official religion. Okay, every religion is considered equal at front of the law. Okay, or every religion is given equal basic rights. Is that clear? Next comes your equality. Okay, what does equality means? In India, equal rights are provided to all its citizens, irrespective of their caste, creed, gender and religion. Okay, all are considered equal at front of the law. That's why our constitution, it promotes equality. Okay, next comes your liberty. Okay. What does the word liberty means? The word liberty has come up from the word liber, and liber means freedom. Okay. Our constitution, it promotes liberty. Okay. How does it promotes liberty? By providing fundamental rights to its citizen. Okay. Our constitution, it provides certain fundamental rights to its citizen. Okay, it provides us freedom of speech. We can speak our mind. It not only to us but also to the media. In fact, we are free to criticize the government also within a certain limitation, definitely. Okay, but we are getting certain freedom. Okay, so this is how the government promotes liberty. Okay, next comes your justice. Okay, see students, all the criminals are equal before law. Okay, so everyone and every citizen has the right to seek justice. Okay, that's why for making the justice system or for promoting justice in country like India, the judiciary has been kept as an independent body. The other two organs of the government, that is the legislature and the executive, they are interrelated to each other, whereas the judiciary has been kept as an independent body so that it does any biasness while giving justice to the people. Okay, so this is how our constitution promotes justice, by keeping judiciary as an independent body. Okay, next comes your fraternity. Now, our constitution promotes fraternity also. Okay, how does it promotes fraternity? Our constitution gives equal rights to all the citizens. It provides justice equally to all the citizens. Everyone is equal at front of the law. Everyone is getting the political rights. Every religion is being considered equal. So in this way, peace and harmony is maintained in the society, and in this way our constitution is maintaining a fraternity in the society. Okay, so today's class will be up to this. See you in my next class again. Thank you.